to the Week in Review. I'm Alexa Diaz, covering world news.
I'm Eduardo Hernandez, bringing you national and state news.
And I'm Ibarra, bringing you local news.
Now I'm bringing you world news. Explosion strikes Turkey's capital, Ankara, killing 5 people and injuring 10. Ankara governor said the explosion may have came from a parked car bomb. 20 ambulances rushed off the scene to the explosion. There's no real evidence on how it happened or who did it. They say it has to do with ISIS. In Syria, at least 122 people killed and many injured due to the bomb attacks that tie in with ISIS. Also, suicide bomb attacks happened in homes in Damascus. At least 83 were killed and 178 injured. 4 Americans arrested in Bahrain for using false information and participating in illegal activities. These 4 Americans have been involved in the international media, participating in riots and protests. They currently staying in the U.S. Embassy in Bahrain until released. ISIS recruiting children in Iraq and turns them into soldiers. ISIS believes that the children will be at the front of the line of the, quote, non-believers. Iraqi children try to escape from this ISIS camp by risking their own life by swimming through a river and around a broken bridge. Some of these children have suicide bomb vests on, and Iraqi army has to shoot them, and if they don't, the children will not be afraid to use a suicide bomb vest, while some actually flee the camp to go home to be with their families. Now Eduardo with your national and state news.
Thrusting himself into the heated American presidential campaign, Pope Francis declared Thursday that Donald Trump isn't a Christian if he wants to build walls. Trump fired back ferociously, saying it was disgraceful for a religious leader to question a person's faith. The Pope has of lately used his influential power to impact political views. The Nevada Democratic caucuses were on Saturday, and Hillary Clinton won with 52.72% and receiving 19 delegates. Bernie Sanders was at 47.21% and he received 15 delegates. In South Carolina, the Republicans had their election with Donald Trump winning at 32.5% and taking all 50 delegates. Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz battled it out for second place, but Marco Rubio came out on top with 22.48% and Cruz's 22.33%. Former Florida Governor Jeb Bush is suspending his campaign for the presidency after a very disappointing performance in the South Carolina primary on Saturday night. Prior to Donald Trump entering the race last June, Bush was seen as the likely frontrunner for the Republican nomination. His brother and mother both joined him on the campaign trail this week in a last-minute attempt to boost his number to no advantage. The man accused of killing 6 people and injuring 2 more in a Saturday evening shooting rampage in Kalamazoo, Michigan, was an Uber driver who picked up and dropped off passengers between shootings. The source, who is not authorized to speak to the media, said, investigators believe Jason Brian Dalton was even looking for fares after the final shooting of a nearly 7-hour killing rampage. And that brings us to this week's commentary. It seems as though every week we have some maniac who takes his gun and cowardly shoots up innocent people. Our first thought is to figure out who did it and why. We throw around terms like mentally unstable or lone wolf. Until someone's a Muslim, then we feel like we have to change it to terrorism. When you have 400,000 American deaths by firearms and there are only 3,000 deaths by terrorism, there's obviously another problem here. The wrong people are getting access to guns. There needs to be political action so that we can prevent this. This is where we have someone right now wearing camo who thinks that we're going to take everyone's guns. Somehow people automatically assume that there's no middle ground. Either you want no guns or you want everyone to have a gun. The logical approach would be to have common sense laws. Make sure that a person who wants to carry a gun is properly checked. Handguns kill 20 times more people than rifles. And when there's a shooter who targets places like businesses and schools, something has to be done about the lack of regulation when it comes to guns. If not, we're going to be seeing shootings every week until we become immune to it. And that's commentary for this week. Donald Trump won the Nevada caucuses on Tuesday night. In second place, Marco Rubio, and in third place was Ted Cruz. At one point, Donald Trump got up to 45% of the votes. This is the 3rd straight win for Donald Trump, and he's off to a huge start. Work on the new Highway 520 bridge in Seattle is progressing towards its April opening schedule. At 7,710 feet, it'll be the longest floating bridge in the world, surpassing by 132 feet the old Highway 520 floating bridge built in 1963. Republicans in Washington state held precinct caucuses Saturday morning, but they won't count in the presidential race. GOP voters met this morning to discuss the party platform and choose delegates to county conventions. In Moses Lake, health officials say 2 deaths in Washington state this month appear to be linked to botulism. Apparently from home canned foods. The Grant County Health District said Friday that the cause of the deaths has not been confirmed. The victims were in their 80s and lived together. But health officials say the disease can affect people of any age. And now Jose with your local news.
A Yakima County man is now facing charges after court records say he pulled a gun on someone over an argument about littering on Friday. Court says Dennis McQuiston, 68, was eating outside a fast food restaurant in his car on Yakima Avenue when he got into an argument with someone else. The written statement says McQuiston threw trash out his window and another man picked it up and threw it back into the car. Records say the two argued about littering and then McQuiston pulled a gun on the man. McQuiston denied pointing the gun at the victim, and the court says that the restaurant employee witnessed him doing so. Eduardo Diaz is now facing second-degree murder and felony weapon charges. Diaz made an appearance in court Thursday morning where police say he shot and killed 47-year-old Anna Hargret during an argument on Roosevelt Avenue back in January. Court papers say that the bullet that killed Hargret also hit another woman in the neck, but she is now recovering. Yakima City Council members found out in a study session Tuesday morning that they were short on money by about $750,000. The 5-year financial outlook prepared in 2014 didn't account for increased city expenses and a lack of city revenue, putting Yakima more than $500,000 behind schedule for the 2016 budget. This could mean hiring freeze or spending cuts on to other Yakima City programs. The city can also choose to tap into the reserve funds through Randy Bickler, Yakima City spokesperson, said that isn't likely. The interim city manager and the Yakima Finance Department will suggest on how the city council should respond. OSBI has released new data about weapon offenses in schools across the state. District leaders do what they can to keep the kids safe, but security guards and firm policies don't always do the trick. Last school year, Yakima school districts reported 75 weapon offenses. That is up from 62 the previous year. West Valley and Sunnyside school districts each reported a decrease in offenses. Both had fewer than 10 weapon incidents last school year. Yakima school district leaders say they are working to bring those offenses down by adding more security cameras to schools and school buses. This has been your Week in Review, and now we leave you with this week's feature.
Pensa soltanto di fare muri, sia dove sia, e non fare ponti non è cristiano. Quest'uomo non è cristiano. Si dice questo così.
For a religious leader to question a person's faith is disgraceful. If and when the Vatican is attacked by ISIS, which as everyone knows is ISIS's ultimate trophy, I can promise you that the Pope would have only wished and prayed that Donald Trump would have been president.
We decided to ask people how they feel about Trump's bromance with the Pope, and what better way to do so by asking people by a bread box at Walgreens.
So what do you think about the Pope's comments where he said Donald Trump isn't a Christian because he wants to build walls instead of bridges? Do you think Donald Trump's a good thing or a bad thing for the electoral process?
Bad.
Bad? Why?
Well, one, he's kind of like a boaster about things. He boasts a lot.
Is this a school project?
Yeah.
With his comment, a small loan of $1 million.
Do you think he's Christian? He claims to be Christian. Do you think he's Christian?
So, probably not.
No? I don't either.
Well, I don't have no comments about that, but the only thing I don't like is Donald.
You don't like
him
Donald
at
Trump?
all, and I'm not going to vote for him.
Who do you want to vote for?
I have no idea. I'm still looking
Bernie
forward
Sanders?
to that. Yeah,
Hillary Clinton?
maybe it could be the first president.
Yeah.
You never know. I do like her husband when
Bill
he
Clinton?
voted. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll see.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
Who do you think's right?
I don't think that anybody has the right to say whether someone's Christian or not. It's up to that individual person to profess their belief in Christ or not. So even the Pope doesn't have the right to say if Donald Trump is Christian or not. I'm just going to go with that. I really don't feel that the Pope has any more right to judge than you or I do. And we're all entitled to our opinion and our differences. I mean, that's how God made us, right?
Yeah. Right.
See, I don't watch all that stuff.
Well, do you think Donald Trump's a Christian?
No,
No. Why not?
because of the way he acts.
So, do you think he's good or bad for the election process?
I think he's good
Good. Good. Why?
because he tells us straight.
Straight how it is.
Yep.
Straight how. Yeah. Thank you.
I don't know. I don't think it was right for the Pope to say that about Donald Trump. But then again, Donald Trump, he's not the best candidate for president. So, I mean, it just depends on how you look at it. I mean, like you said, Christians build bridges, not walls.
Do you think he is a Christian, or do you think he's lying about it?
It's not my place to say what he is or what he isn't. So,
I don't really know anything about Trump except that he doesn't like immigrants.
Donald Trump is a very nice person, and I'm a very good Christian.